Give me 1 second. Okay, we're ready.
Good morning, commissioners. Welcome to this work session. The topic today is to discuss the solid waste and recyclables collections contract. Recently, this topic was placed on the agenda, and we thought it would be best to have a work session to provide sufficient discussion for such an important matter. Today, we will have Director Mihal, Interim Deputy Director Paget to conduct the presentation. We will also have Director Sams available for any questions about procurement. Deputy Director Paget, please go ahead with the presentation.
Okay. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Jarvis previously said, we are going to be talking about some options that the commission has before them regarding the collection contracts, the rebidding of the solid waste recyclables collection contracts. This is what our purpose here today is, to give you that information in order for you to be able to make an informed decision. So the options are, we can rebid now, or we can renew the current contract 2 years and then rebid later. In the current contracts, there are renewal terms, and they state that there can be 2 or more successive 2-year terms for renewal, and that we have to give the contractors no less than 60 days notice prior to expiration. So the current expiration is December 31st of 2021, and a 2-year renewal would bring that expiration to December 31st of 2023. Now, some considerations about renewing. There is a 2013 resolution that was signed by the mayor, approved by the commission back in 2013 at the beginning of our current contracts. And there is a section in there that states that whereas the Augusta Commission is committed to alternate fuels by utilizing this contract as a means of developing CNG infrastructure for Augusta. And what that meant for our prime contractors, and that would be Advanced and Orion now, is that each contractor was required to build a CNG station in their designated area of service. So Advanced had designated area of service number 1, and that requirement was $2,650,000. I'm sorry, $2,650,000. And then Orion had area 2 and area 3. Each area required that $2,650,000 construction cost. Now, we didn't build the third one in area 3, but they were still required to make the payments to Augusta. And Orion CNG final payment for the area 3 station would be November of 2021. So they're not finished fulfilling that requirement in the current agreement. Okay, and then as the other part of that resolution that discusses CNG, it required all collection vehicles to operate on said CNG, understanding that the contract term must be extended to a minimum length of 9 years to reasonably match the useful life of the collection vehicles, thereby maximizing the benefits to Augusta. So at this point, there's the section in the contract at 611 that all vehicles shall operate solely on CNG. So the contractors and their subcontractors, they all purchased their vehicles in 2013. At this point in time, A1, who is a subcontractor of Advanced, their final CNG payment was just last month. It was September of this year. Metro, the subcontractor for Orion, their final payments on their vehicles will not be complete until June of 2021. Miss Jerry, did you want to say something at this point?
No, you're done well. Thank you.
I want to say something, Mr. Administrator.
Go ahead.
Mr. Sims.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sias.
Okay, Miss Paget, go back to the slide before this one.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah. No, one more. Okay, right here. Where
Yes,
Orion for Area 3 paid is working on the $2,650,000 to the Environmental Services of Augusta. Explain to, since they were actually paying money. We did not provide them any vehicles, did we?
No, sir, we didn't provide them any vehicles, no.
So that was kind of a payment in lieu of building a station, right? So that was a payment in lieu of building the station, correct?
Yes, sir, it was. It was.
Who
Yes,
did
sir.
that money go to, and what was the designated purpose of that?
Okay, the way it was, that was arranged through a previous director. And what we are doing is, it is simply deducted from what we would be paying to Orion. So they send us an invoice and there's a monthly amount that's deducted for that third CNG station.
Okay. All right, go back to where you was at the last time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you say there are payments, those are actually their deductions then, correct?
No, now for
And
the,
I understand what you mean, but y'all are not picking up any additional cash from the haulers, are you?
no.
Okay, I just want to clarify that in my mind. Thank you.
Got
Thank you, Administrator.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Sims, I have a question as well.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hassan, sir.
The consideration of a renewal, that's slide 7.
Jeff, you can go to slides. Thank you.
Explain that to me where it said require collection vehicles to operate on CNG and to extend it to a minimum of 9 years. Explain that to me.
Go ahead, Ms. Paget.
Well, you know that procurement normally doesn't allow contracts to go over a certain amount of years. And this was in the resolution as a consideration for the financial requirements that this contract was placing on the haulers and the sub-haulers, that it would be a longer length to allow them time to, that's a lot of investment for them. And we stretched out the actual term to allow them to make their payments and, actually recoup some of their investment back.
Okay, so now we are saying extend it. So you're saying the contract, let me make I understand. The contract naturally was from 13 to 21, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so are we talking about extensions when you say it's to a minimum length of 9 years? It can be extended another 9 years?
Okay, so the contract term was, like you said, it was 13 to 21. And I believe it was June of 13 until December of 21. And that is 8 years and 6 months. So we're almost there.
Well, that wasn't the question, though.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Repeat your question, Commissioner Hassan. That wasn't the question.
Yeah, because I mean, the term here, and this may be for procurement to weigh in on this too, Ms. Becky. I'm not sure. But now I see this more talking about extension more so than the contract. See,
I understand.
that's how I'm interpreting it. I could be wrong, but that's how I'm interpreting it.
And I was interpreting the contract term within the current contract. It states that the contract term was June of 13 to December of 21. That's what I'm interpreting it as. And we can have legal or procurement to weigh in.
Well, if I can, I don't want to take Mr. Hawthorne's question, but I'm not understanding if it was a 9-year contract extended because the use of the equipment. Now we're talking about additional time after the 9 years.
That's not how I'm interpreting that.
I'm not interpreting at all. I'm trying to get an understanding. I need somebody to clarify now. There's too much money, too much involved for somebody not to speak up and say something, whether it be procurement, the attorney, or the landfill.
What?
I got a problem.
Ms. Sims, can you chime in for us?
Mr. Commissioner, the terms of that agreement is it will expire on December 31st, 21. Attached to those terms and agreement were two options. The options were 2 years, two-year options. We're at a point now where you can either go out for bid because the original contract terms will expire December 31 of 21, okay? Or we can accept the two options, which are 2-year terms, okay? That's where we are. So you can accept the two options of 2 years.
Okay, question, Ms. Sam.
Yes, sir.
If we gonna accept, first of all, my first question is, had the contract changed any since we did the initial contract?
There has been some changes to the contract, and the department would have to go into all of those terms and conditions of the change.
Okay, I get that. It one of has been changing. So if the contract change, we can't take, in my opinion, take the contract and move it forward and extend it, because we already done made some changes. The other thing is the other station, the CNG station we supposed to build. I questioned that years ago why it wasn't built. Now we approved that, but now we're gonna let them make a little payments, not payments, but how did that work when they didn't have to build a station that was in the contract that was supposed to have been built? I raised that issue several times. Why wasn't it built? Now I'm hearing that in lieu of building it, then we didn't have to pay them a certain amount. That should have been a part of the contract.
She's on. Okay.
So what are the changes that were made to this contract?
Y'all gonna never let me get my question answered, are we?
I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry. But
Go ahead, Commissioner Hassan, with your question, sir.
Yeah, number one, let's need to address what Commissioner Williams is talking about. There was no substantial changes made to this contract that impact the life of the contract. It's just that normally some things need to be done in the contract, so the contract is not being inhibited by extensions or anything of that nature. My only question was, looking at the language, what it says, is that the contract term must be extended to a minimum of 9 years to reasonably match the useful life of collection vehicles there. See, for me, that was speaking to, and I could be dead wrong on this, speaking to beyond the contract itself. The life of the contract is 13 to 21. And the term must here, to me, says, okay, for them to get all the benefits, what they get, it can be extended up to another 9 years. Now, that's my interpretation of that. That doesn't speak to the natural life of the initial terms of the contract. That's what it says. I could be dead wrong on that. That was my question.
Let me just interject something here, Mr. Hassan. I like what you said, but your perception that the contract actually meant an addition of 9 years, you were right up until that point. The contract specifically says that it's going to be in place for the 9 years, and the city, which is you, the commission, has the authority to accept the options that were placed in the terms and condition of that contract. Those options were the 2 years each, which would be an addition of 4 years, not 9.
Well, let me ask you this, Sam, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
Okay, and I'm gonna move on from here, but what I'm looking at is the language. The language said must be extended. That's what, in terms of saying the length of this contract is, the term of this contract is 13 to 21. Here, the language to me is speaking to an extension. It said must be extended. That's all I'm saying. So I'm gonna move on from there. I'm not gonna debate that in the.
Okay.
I'm looking at the language that's being used.
Yes, sir.
okay, and if I can get my question in there, and I understand what Commissioner Hassan was saying, but I'm saying there's been changes to the contract. Once you make the contract and you make some changes, that changes everything because it was a change made. Now I know we're paying more money we're paying the same money for less service now. We're not even dealing with the same contractor we started out with. So there's been some significant changes made in the contract.
That's
So,
not true, Commissioner.
okay, well, I'm not debating with you, Commissioner. I'm putting it out on the table. If it ain't true, let somebody who do this tell me it ain't true. Tell me that I'm wrong. Because your opinion just like mine. It don't mean nothing. So I'm asking a question. If I'm wrong, I need somebody with the knowledge to tell me I'm wrong. Whoever that may be. Whoever that.
Go ahead, Ms. Paget.
Yeah.
There is language within the current contracts that provide for amendments and some changes. So that was followed. There is language in there that also talks about change in control. So there are provisions within the current contract. It is not, those changes did not require us to rebid. So you still have that option to extend this for 2 more years. So that is intact because those provisions that are within the agreement have been followed.
Okay, well, that's my question. I didn't say it was illegal. I didn't say it was done wrong, but I said it had been done, and that has been done. Yes. Now I'm really frustrated with this contract anyway, because I still think we're paying more for the same service now. We're picking up once a week when we're picking up twice a week for the same price. I think it's unfair to the taxpayers. I think our city is getting trashed even more now because stuff is being blowing out of the cans and over top of the can. I think we need to look at our contract and what we're doing for the taxpayers of Richmond County. I don't think the business people ought to just walk away with everything. Go back to what I said about the CNG station that I've been waiting on to be built, and it wasn't built. With that much money, why wasn't it built if that was in the contract? But
yes,
we're going to pick and choose what we like and what we don't like.
Commissioners, if we may, we have probably about 10 more slides. If we could go ahead and present those.
Can I ask the question that I asked earlier, Jarvis?
Oh, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry, Commissioner Garrett. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd asked a question back when Ms. Sams was speaking about the numerous changes that she stated had been made. And I was just wondering if we could get specifics on these changes. As you know, I've asked this question numerous times in the past and haven't been able to get a reasonable response. So if you could help me with that.
I'll be happy to help you with it. However, I'm going to turn it over to the department because they have to keep up with all of the changes that are made to their contract because they're the managers of that contract. I was speaking from the amendments that were numbered as it relates to the procurement part of that. So Becky, can you address that for Mr. Garrett, please? And thank you for that question again, Commissioner.
Sure. Yes, sir. There have been some amendments that have been obviously, Orion had a change in ownership, and there was an amendment that we had to approve that change in control. So that was one of them.
But that was basically just a name change, correct?
Yes, sir. But you know, we have to provide that approval in writing. That was one of them. Let's see what else I have here. I have a list of them. Okay. So back in 2017, we did an amendment to allow the yard waste and bulk waste to be mixed into the same vehicle. There was one for that we had not done an annual survey. And back in 2017, we also agreed that we removed for that particular year, we removed the annual survey cost from the unused funds portion of the agreement. We have also agreed the CNG rate within the contract was set at $4 at an equivalent price per gallon, and it was $4.10, and it was agreed to reduce that to $3 in July of 18, and then the beginning of 19, we set the rate at.
In regards to the CNG facilities, there's $50,000 that are taken from the contractors each month. Where does that money go?
Right, so, and it was agreed, again, with the previous director, it is being deducted from the invoice that we pay to them. So they submit an invoice
What
for
does
their service.
ESD do with that $50,000 each month?
Well, it just does not, it's just remains in our account. We don't do anything with it. We aren't required to pay it to the hauler because it's been deducted. So it's just in
Okay.
our accounts. Okay, so the other thing that we did some adjustment to some one-time rate increases. And the other thing that we did, I believe in here, we adjusted, the software that we have was supposed to give us confirmation of how many times a cart was lifted per month. And in the current contract, we were supposed to be charging or not paying haulers for the amount of times that it's lifted. So if it's lifted the majority of the month, we pay the hauler. If it was only lifted once a month, we weren't required to pay the hauler. Now that technology never worked, and we were never able to actually do that. So there was an adjustment to amend the contract to allow for us to pay the haulers based upon who's paying us. We do a unit count every quarter at the end of the quarter, and we give them a count of how many paying customers that we have as residential, how many are non-residential, extra carts, and I think in the contract it's unoccupied locations. So we had to revise how we pay the haulers because that technology just wasn't working.
So what about the grabber truck though? The contractor part about the grabber truck picking up the stuff with the grabber truck, and we had a subcontractor working with that too. Wasn't that another change?
No, sir, that wasn't a change. That's still intact. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. There are two categories of yard waste and bulk waste. If it's 10 cubic yards or under, the hauler is required to remove it. And if it's 10 cubic yards and over, the contract specifies that it's to be removed by a grapple truck. And there are some places and things that we simply cannot get to where the material is. If it's loose, the grapple truck, really can't get small things that are real tiny. So we utilize a contractor to help us remove those materials. That if they're too close to a fence or up on a hill or something that the grapple truck can't get it, then we refer those jobs to a contractor.
It's a lot of facets to this contract, and I get that. And the grapple truck is just one that came to mind because we had some issues with the grapple truck being down and not being to use the subcontractor and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't want to get tied up in those right now. Let's go on through this contract so we can get to what we need to do about whether we're going to keep this contract or rebid this contract.
Okay.
But there's a lot of facets. There's a lot of stuff to this that we skimming over right now. And I don't want to get in the weeds of all of it because you're going to get confused. We won't get anything done. So let's.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead and continue with us. Ms.
All
Patterson.
right. You're going. Okay. One of the topics that we wanted to discuss today was if we choose to renew, what are we going to do about the curbside recycling? Because that was one of the things that we felt directly affected your decision whether to rebid at expiration or to renew for an additional 2 years. So what do we do about it? Well, curbside recycling, it is incorporated into the current contract and it's not severable. So ending curbside recycling from the current contract would mean that we would have to rebid immediately. So these are some suggestions, ideas that we had of how we could revise the current contract, the curbside recycling program, should you want to renew for 2 more years. One of the things that we decided we had to do was we had to find a closer MRF. That's a materials recovery facility. And that would help keep us the transportation the cost low. We also had to determine what the closest MRF would accept at the lowest rate. And we would have to revise our acceptable recycling materials to what that MRF accepts at the lowest rate. And we also have to address contamination. So the nearest materials recovery facilities are Pratt Industries in Conyers, Georgia, Sunoco Recycling in Columbia, South Carolina, and the North Augusta. The city of North Augusta actually has a MRF right across the river. The problems have been, though, with Pratt and Sunoco, our contamination rates were so high that those two facilities have rejected our loads. They have turned us around because there was so much contamination in our recycling that they were unacceptable. So this is what we came up with. The nearest MRF is North Augusta. We spoke with them about what they would accept, and they are looking for plastic. They would accept plastic at a low rate if it's sorted by color. Their rate right now is $48 per ton to sort anything. So if we were to actually sort it by color, they actually have an municipality rate where it is just a cost of nothing. It's free. We already do that with our glass. We take our glass to North Augusta. So there you have it. They are accepting plastic, but it has to be sorted. So we would revise the acceptable recycling material that goes in our cart to just a clear plastic bottles only. And then we would get the municipal rate, and that would save us our disposal cost. And our disposal costs last year were $243,533.
So if that was already on the, something that was readily available for us, why haven't we heard about this before now, especially earlier this year when we were discussing recycling and the different issues surrounding it? We're 10 months into this year. And I know that back in February, we had the same discussion about recycling. I think that, if we could already have made these changes, especially during COVID, when a lot of people were at home and could have paid more attention to their recycling, it had been a great time for education. I don't see a problem in revising even our current recycling program before even discussion of renewal.
Right.
Mr. Garrett, hold on. Mr. Garrett, will you repeat the last part of that? What you just stated. I'm trying to keep notes so that at the end of this session, we can go back and see what we have to do procurement wise and include your idea in it. Can you restate that?
I said that I don't see why we couldn't go ahead and revise the current recycling plan to plastic only under the current contract, whether or not we decide to extend or rebid.
We can, but we wanted to bring this before the commission to get approval for it, because at one point earlier this year, we were directed to end recycling. And so we've been doing a survey throughout the entire state and other communities actually in South Carolina. We've been researching and trying to come up with the best plan for our county.
So when did you get the order to request to stop recycling?
That came from the workshop earlier this year. That
all dealt with trying to come up with a solution because we were losing so much money with recycling. So basically what you're saying here is if we go to plastic only, we would recoup the loss that we were losing last year, correct?
We would reduce the cost. It would only be transportation now.
Yeah.
When did we find out about this program that was offered, Ms. Becky?
We've been speaking with North Augusta for several months, off and on for several months. I think at the beginning we were hoping that they could take all of our plastic, and it just came down to where they have a sorting cost, and so it has to be pre-sorted.
Commissioner Sias, I see your hand. Go ahead, sir.
I want to go back to what, thank you. I want to go back to what Ms. Paget was saying. That number you mentioned about savings, was that 400 or 200?
200.
It's 243,000.
All right, good. Now, the follow up with that will be saved, that will save that amount. Now, so the question I have, are we actually gonna make any money, or will we just be simply reducing it almost to the cost of transportation? In giving them the recycle, are they paying us? Or are we still paying them to take it?
No, sir. They would not charge us to take it. It would just be our transportation cost to that facility. So our recycling cost would be, we have the transfer station that we lease, and then we have transportation costs. So we're not making anything, but we are reducing our losses.
That's what I just wanted to make clear. We don't make a dime in a recycling program. That's correct?
That's correct.
So,
Well, we do make something off of our metals, but it's not enough to offset the expenses.
okay, good. I just want to get clear on that. So who do we take the metals to?
I believe it's one of the local, if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you. There is a local metal recycling facility that we use. I want to say Newell. I believe it's Newell, sir.
Okay, I thought they was COVID out right now. But anyway,
Yeah.
the last question I have there is, in this area is, if we are going to, in doing this, and we put just the plastics only, and we're looking at, oh crap, that got away from me. Go ahead, thank you. I'll come back to that.
It's okay.
I have a question, Mr. Sams.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hassan, sir.
Yes, sir. Ms. Becky,
Yes, sir.
in terms of considering this clear plastics only, how does this impact the contract with the primes? Does this absorb us of any liability? Because I know I believe if we just say discontinue, which we're not talking about discontinue, we're talking about now a certain product for recycling. Is there any liability that we will owe to the primes as a result of winding down our contract in terms of what we're going to recycle?
No, sir.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. We're going to buy legal. So I do not believe there would be, they are collecting those who choose to recycle. They have a recycle cart and they have their routes, and they're out there collecting it, and they bring it to the transfer station, and whatever is in that cart belongs to Augusta. And we can, we will take that material and do our best to recycle it, get it to a processor.
So let me ask you this now then.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if you said it's going to reduce us $243,000.
Yes, sir.
Right now, what are you doing with the stuff that's not eligible to be recycled right now?
It comes to the landfill, sir. It is being landfilled.
So in other words, we are incurring some cost to transport it over to North Augusta, just the bottles, but we are in the recycling business once again officially.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we understand that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I don't think we ever got out of recycling business. I think we've been in it all the time. We're trying to make sure that we make sure it's a benefit. How do we separate the clear from the non-clear? I mean, there's a lot of plastic material.
Right.
So if people are recycling and they putting plastic in a container, they're not going to separate the clear from the color. So
right.
how's that working? Because if everything going to recycling and they in North Augusta don't accept the color, they only accept the clear. So somebody need to explain that to me.
So what we would ask the residents to do is to only put the clear plastic bottles in their cart, their blue lid cart. We are looking to expand more drop-off locations where we would collect other plastics that would be sorted by color. Right now, we collect glass, and the container it is in is sorted. It's sorted by color. We could do the same thing with other plastics. It's just that we would not be collecting the colored plastics in the recycle bins, only clear.
The biggest issue I see, we trying to get people to recycle. That's the biggest issue. Now we telling them if we get them to recycle, we got to tell them separate the colors. I mean, when people are not used to recycling, then they're certainly not going to say, okay, I'm going to start now separating these colors. There's a lot of plastic with water and everything else is going to plastic now. It is a serious issue that we got to deal with, but I'm confused as how we gonna put a container out there and ask the household members to just put one in one can and another can when they hadn't been recycling at all.
Right.
The contamination come from trash and everything else, if I'm not mistaken, that's
Yes,
thrown
sir.
in the recycling can.
Right.
So education, and that's something we had not done. We had not informed the people about how to do this.
Right.
Couldn't we task Keep Augusta Beautiful with helping to educate the community with
Well, let's go on.
the
Let's go
changeover?
on to the. Yeah, let's go on to the next slide.
Mr.
Yeah, I
Garrett, you
think that-
skipped me there.
That hits it.
Here we go. So, addressing contamination. So basically, what we've been.
Hold on.
But it's going to be very relevant and very important that Mr. Garrett's question is answered clearly, because if we go to Augusta Beautiful to do that for us,
Keep
and we
Augusta Beautiful.
certainly can,
Yeah, exactly. I'm
it
looking
will
at
be different from trying to market a new concept.
right.
So I think Mr. Garrett's question needs to be answered and needs to be made clear. Did I help you a little bit, Mr. Garrett?
No, ma'am. I believe
didn't.
that I believe that I was trying to reiterate that is part of the whole reason that Keep Augusta Beautiful exists is to help
Yes.
educate the community.
Yes,
I don't think that it would add anything or a new marketing plan. I think that is specifically what that department is for.
Okay, but
Okay.
now as it relates to this contract, we need to be careful about anything new and different that we bring into it that the contract didn't speak of earlier on. So I'm suggesting caution.
Keep Augusta Beautiful is an Augusta department. It has
Yes,
nothing
I-
to do with this contract, but it is a means that we could help educate the public on the change to the recycling program.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
and
If there
I
is
agree
one.
with you. But I want to also call to your attention that we're sort of doing a new process in asking the taxpayers of Richmond County to now go in depth with a different type of recycling process, as Mr. Williams had stated. Now we're going to a 100% clear plastic.
Ms.
I
Wood,
love
Ms.
Ms.
Sam,
Sams, I asked that question earlier. I didn't hear you say anything then.
and
Exactly, Ben.
That's what
If
I
I
asked
can-
earlier.
Yep.
Commissioners, if I can interject, I think what Ms. Paget is about to say is that is a part of Keep Augusta Beautiful, their function as far as awareness about recycling, about just anything, keeping our community clean and safe. So that would not be anything new. That is a part of their function.
Absolutely.
It would
Mr.
not be a material change to what they do, so.
Let
it
me
could definitely be
go back.
incorporated.
Sams, please.
But gentlemen and
Ms.
ladies,
Sams, Ms.
when we
Sams,
talk about the contract,
Ms. Sams,
yes, sir.
that was my question earlier about downsizing the recycle just to these clear products. What impact, if any, that would have on the contract? That was my question. So I think that's why I hear you addressing that now, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you're addressing right now?
I am addressing the
Oh,
contract.
that's what and so I thought that. So now explain that to us, because that was my question.
Okay. The contract, the original contract, although this is a good idea, great moving forward, we have to stick to the conditions of the original contract. Augusta Beautiful has always been out there. But unfortunately, when that contract was let, that wasn't part of that process. Am I right, Becky?
Yeah, Keep Augusta Beautiful, there's nothing in the contract
Exactly.
that mentions anything about what we do with the recyclables that are brought to our transfer station.
Exactly.
So, and there's no stipulation that restricts us from what we advertise or how we change what goes into the cart. There's nothing in the current contract that prevents us from changing or altering what we will accept as a recycling material. So
Thank
there
you,
is
Becky.
there is nothing in there to prevent us from changing this.
Well, maybe it's not in there, but I think I'm hearing Ms. Sams mention the contract. We got to be careful when it comes to what we do add into the contract or don't add into the contract.
Right.
It's what I'm hearing. Now, I don't think Augusta Beautiful, Keep Augusta Beautiful is a different entity, but we got to be careful when it comes to the contract that we want someone else to sign with them in being impeded in that. Is that right, Ms. Sam?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's clear.
Where in the current contract does it state specifically what items are accepted?
Not in there.
Exactly.
That is
So
my
I'm trying to understand where we're going with this, Ms. Sams. I mean, we've made the decision, early on about what materials we wanted to recycle. Those materials are no longer accepted at many places. So all we're doing is changing the materials that are readily available to be recyclable or to be recycled. And so the contract doesn't even state what we should recycle. It just says there's a recycling program.
There's a recycling program. The contract, in fact, does state that. But however, at the time that the contract was done, Commissioner Garrett, there were made mention of the items that will be considered recyclable. And now that we're talking about this contract in its totality, we have to consider what was in that original contract, whereas it doesn't identify everything, as you mentioned, but it did and was a part of the conversation and a part of the contract when the contract was let. Now we're saying it's going to be restricted to just one clear product. So that is a change to that contract.
Exactly.
And let me say,
It does not state the materials to be collected as recyclables.
I see your hand, Commissioner Silas. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I had a brain snap a while ago. Here's what I wanted to ask Ms. Paget and Mr. Mihal. In light of this revelation about the deductions in lieu of payment for the station, we are paying somebody, I believe, and if I'm wrong, that's fine, $2,000 a month for this recycling station, which is nothing but a shed with a concrete floor. And why when y'all were looking at opportunities earlier from last year and the beginning of this year, did y'all not look at, let's get away from that and maybe do that out there at the landfill where the trucks already go and just do that, I don't know what you want to call it, reshuffling of the recycle, and do that on the landfill property versus renting something way down on Goshen Industrial Boulevard. Why haven't we not considered that, and what would be the advantages or disadvantages of considering it now?
Hey, scan that contract and see what it said about recycling.
Well, I definitely think we have that option available to us. The biggest hurdle in that is the transfer station off of Mike Paget is enclosed. We don't have any enclosed facility here currently at the landfill that would prevent the elements from affecting the collected material. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's certainly something to look at. I think we can make some modifications to our CDO citizens drop-off area and areas adjacent to that that could do that. But it would definitely take some addition to that to create a functioning and at least partially enclosed collection facility there.
Mr. Mihal, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's nothing but a shed with a concrete floor and some roll-up doors. Y'all reimburse yourself $50,000 a month. It doesn't cost that much to build that shed, and we've been paying this $2,000 a month to this company, Miss Paget. I believe that we paid them for the last 10 years, haven't we?
You know what? I'm not sure about that. I think that we did pay it more. We were over there before the current contract. I think we were.
Oh, well, wow, that's more of a definition of what I'm saying. So that's about what, $200,000. We could build a a transfer station, which is nothing but a high shed with a concrete floor and some roll-up doors if you want it enclosed. I think we need to, you need to spend a little of this money to save a ton of this money. So it don't have to be in this contract at this point, but we really need to do, if we don't continue recycling, we need that transfer station located out there. We was given this guy from Atlanta. I know Commissioner Son remember him. We were giving him a whole space to build a whole plant out there. And so we can't build a little small transfer station somewhere. Mr. Administrator, we really need to work on that one. Thank you.
We will look into that. Commissioner Marion Williams, I see your hand, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, two things. First of all, the transfer station, the CNG station is supposed to build in the contract kept getting put off over a period of years, and I got some issue with that. We need to talk about it. But let me ask another question. If we recycle stuff and people put everything in the can, we'll be fine. Fine for that. Will we have to take it out? Will we have to sort it out ourselves? Will they turn everything back around and send it back from North Augusta, wherever we take it to? How would that work if people don't follow up because they're not educated about recycling?
Go ahead, Ms. Patty.
All right. Well, I guess I did want to make a clarification, Jarvis and commissioners. There is a definition in the contract that talks about many materials that what recyclables means, but there is also language in the contract that says that Augusta can amend what we recycle from time to time. So we're well within our right to from time to time to adjust what we will accept. Now, as far as Commissioner Williams, you're asking about how would we educate people about this change?
No, my first question is, will we have to sort it out ourselves, or will we be okay? Then they'll charge us to sort it out.
We're gonna ask the residents to put only clear plastic bottles in the cart with the blue lid.
I get that, but if they don't do it, there's a lot of people who don't recycle. That's why the contamination is there. So if I get somebody to recycle, I'm gonna be lucky if they recycle, not separate the colors from the recycled stuff.
Right.
That's gonna be amazing.
Right.
So if they mix the colors, who's responsible after that point?
Okay. So here comes the next part of, we can set a date for this new program, and then we would provide extensive education to the community about the revised program, that, only clear bottles will be accepted after this, and that any other material in the recycle cart is contamination, and Augusta reserves the right to remove the recycle cart due to contamination. Now, those would be the new guidelines for the revised program. Now, how we enforce that, years ago, Keep Augusta Beautiful and I and several people here organized a recycle cart audit. And we went out into a community neighborhood within Augusta, and we did a trial run. And that was where we would walk through the neighborhood before service and lift the lid of the recycle cart to check what was in there. And according to what we found, we left an oops card. We did that for an entire month. And at the end of it, we did reduce contamination. And we did remove some recycle carts that continued to contaminate. They kept putting the wrong materials in there. So we've already done a trial run of a recycle cart audit, and it became clear to us that Environmental Services does not have enough staff, and nor does Keep Augusta Beautiful to audit all the carts in Richmond County. So we've got some ideas how to organize a volunteer-based recycle cart audit. I have some ideas of, they'd have to apply, we would have to approve them, they would have to be trained, and that we would give them the materials to go out and conduct audits. And we would have to work with Keep Augusta Beautiful. We'd all have to work together, because in the end, if folks, after we've trained them and we've left them notices that says, oops, you're not supposed to have this in your cart, 3 strikes, you're out, we would be removing that recycle cart. And that process reduces the contamination. This is what a lot of communities are doing throughout the United States. The way you you get people to understand our program is to do a cart audit. Lots of education and a cart audit. And it cannot be a one-time deal. A lot of places hire companies to come in and audit their recycle carts once. It has to be something on a continued basis. And that's what we're proposing. And yes, indeed, we will be working with Keep Augusta Beautiful.
So what would that cost, Becky?
If it's volunteer based, printing up some oops cards or notices, and that's about it.
Okay, and my response to that is that if you take the card away, if somebody was recycling and mixed it up, they're gonna end up putting it in the regular garbage. Then the stuff that should be recycled, we can't take the can completely away from them and say, you know, we're not gonna service you.
No, just the recycle cart, just the recycle cart.
I know.
Okay.
We remove the recycle card and they're gonna put it in the regular can. And at that point, they're not gonna just keep it around the house. So again, we open up one door and close another one. I'm trying to figure out how how to get through this, but I don't understand it.
Commissioner, we do know
Mr.
that
Administrator.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Bobby Williams.
Well, I just wanted to comment. If I remember correctly, is it 24,000 people do recycling in Augusta?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's one third.
Okay, 24,000 people. You got approximately, what about 300,000 people live in Augusta? 250,000, 300,000 people. It seems like we're banging our heads against the wall trying to satisfy 1/3 of the people. I think that what we should do is do the best that we can with this recycling program, whether we go to clear bottles or what have you for the remainder of this contract. But I think we need to really talk before we extend or rebid or what have you. I think we need to get out of the recycling business. You're talking about education, educating people, going down, checking trash cans and what have you. You've already stated that we just don't have the manpower to do this.
Right.
But we're looking at approximately 24,000 people when you got hundreds of thousands of people in Richmond County. And
Right.
you know, if you say that you're not going to do the program and you get some people calling in, but there are a lot of people not calling in. And we're just beating our heads against the wall. We're not going to be able to get these people. They say they pay for their trash and they're going to want to put in the trash can, whatever it is that they want to put in the trash can. I think Commissioner Stiles has had the best idea that we turn that second cart into another trash can. And when they come around, on the day that they come around, we just have 2 trash cans. And maybe we can set up a situation where they have a drop off, where if they have clear bottles that they can put those in and we can pay somebody to go and pull those bottles out and take it to a recycling plant or what have you. But
Right.
I think right now we're just beating our heads against the wall to satisfy 1/3 of people in Augusta, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Let's see. Okay, go ahead and continue, Ms. Paget.
All right. So curbside recycling. There are some current events that have happened in our area. And I did want to mention this, that while the recycling market has been devastated in the recent past, that recycling technology continues to evolve. There's a plastic, the industry has developed, they've got all types of new technology and it is growing and it has reached our area. There's a plastic recycling plant that just opened this year in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And the process is, I believe it's called plastic chemical recycling, where they take plastics and they turn it back into plastics as even a stronger or better product. In addition, there's a plastic renewal plant that is looking to locate in Georgia in the very near future, and they're actually looking in our area. And what this plastics renewal plant does, I believe, is that they turn plastic into fuel. So, we do currently have the recycling infrastructure in place. We have the haulers, we have the trucks, we have the routes, we have the carts. And we're just putting this out to you for consideration. It is definitely the commission's decision. But, once you end a program, what we found is that other communities are finding it very hard to rebuild it and restart it. And we just brought this to your attention for your consideration. All right, so let's talk about non-renewal. We've talked about renewal. What about non-renewal? If we do not wish to renew, we have that right in our contract. We would need to try to award, according to the terms, that we would try to award a new contract within 6 months prior to expiration, and we're really bumping up on that. So, Commissioner Marion Williams, you were right. If we're not going to renew, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot to be done. So, and also too, if there is the option that if there is no new contract at the expiration of December 31st of 2021, then we could go to month. That is an option. So let's talk about the rebid process.
Hey, before we move forward, Becky, if we
Yes.
decide to open up a new bid, is 6 months enough time for somebody to get up to speed with new trucks and everything to have those built out and ready to come into service within 6 months?
No, sir. No, sir. We're going to go over that. That's number 6 on that list. So the rebid process, we would definitely want to have more workshops with the commission. We would really like to, as there are concerns and things that everyone over the last 7 years, there are things that you might want to change, things that are working well, things that we could do better. Like I said, we're in the process of doing a survey throughout Georgia to determine what other communities are doing. We could want to come bring that before you and tell you about what we found and give those options to our community. And of course, you guys are going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to provide us guidance of what you want in a new bid and a new contract. Then we've got to come back and prepare the specifications. And of course, the whole bid process, the RFP, we got to advertise, meetings, presentations, evaluations, recommendations. And then we go into the final negotiations, contract preparation. And of course, it has to go through commission approval. But in addition, as Commissioner Garrett had just mentioned, we need to provide a new contractor transition period. And what is that? So in the current agreement, 2.2 was a transition period prior to the commencement. So from the time that they signed it, the effective date, which was August of 2013, the contractors had time to purchase vehicles, order equipment, install the software, get people trained, prepare routes, and get ready to start new services. So in the current contract, they had 10 months preparation time before they were actually required to start providing services. So yes, that does come into play. Next. So here we've done a comparison that if you choose to rebid now, let the contract, it's going to expire at the end of 21. This is kind of a little time frame versus, okay, if we renew for 2 more years and then rebid, then this is the time frame for that. So we would have to have bid workshops right away. We would, and Ms. Sams has already prepared this timeline. I got this from her work. We'd have to have the specifications in January, the RFP. That advertisement is an 8-week. We try to advertise for 8 weeks because of the complexity of this bid in the contract. The actual bid process is approximately 9 months. And then there's the bid award, contract prep, and you're looking at the end of December of 2021. So then it has to be approved, and then we have to allow for a transitional period for a new contractor. So we're looking at around July 1st of 20 versus the 2-year renewal where we have plenty of time. We can do 21, we can do workshop specification in the ad, then we can go in 22, we could have the bid process at our leisure, and the transition period could be 23 leading up to January 1st of 2024.
You know,
Okay, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, Becky. I was gonna say something. I'm gonna hold it. Go ahead.
Oh, alrighty. So this is what is before you now. You can rebid now. We can start that process, get on it right away, because it is a long bid process, and we have limited time. But that would mean that this is an opportunity. If you choose to end curbside recycling, then this would be the time to do it. We would need to rebid now. And of course, that is limited time, and there's also a shorter transitional period for the new contractor. If you choose to rebid 2 years, renew 2 years and then rebid, then we could revise that curbside recycling and extend it for 2 more years. There's sufficient time, and we would be able to provide a longer transitional period for the new contractors.
Let me step in, Becky, and say a couple of things here. First of all, I heard you say earlier about looking around at other cities and how they, what equipment they're using, how they're doing, and
Yes, sir.
and so on. Well, when you talk about the contract, and not just this contract, but all our contracts, look like we get up against the wall. We're always in a panic. Instead of doing things like everybody else doing, it's time to renew this contract. But we wait and get up against the wall, and we, what are we gonna do? My thing is that we're not getting the service. I don't think, in my opinion, getting the service that we're paying for our constituency. There's a lot of fault. We need to look at this thing seriously and go ahead and get started now, doing what we need to do. That's not my decision alone. That's just one vote if they do it in between now and December. But long story short is, we keep putting it off. Other communities don't do what we're doing. Everything we do, not just in this contract, but we get up against the wall and then say, oh, we can't move. We got to rush it. We got to fast track it. That's not good government. So that's just an opinion I wanted to bring out and put on the table. That's all.
Okay.
Commissioner, if I may add, that was the purpose of this work session, is that the actual contract ends December 31st, 2021. And we thought it would be adequate enough time now, October this year, to go ahead and present this before you all, and you all have the options to renew or rebid. And that's why we're doing it now before you all, sir.
That's why I put it on the agenda, Mr. Administrator, to talk about it, because we had not done some things that we should have been doing all the time. We busy doing other stuff. I'll just leave it like that. But I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. And we knew that this would require extensive discussion, and we felt best that it would be better before you all in the work session versus an agenda item to allow adequate time to discuss this important matter.
Well, there are a lot of options too. I mean, we can't do month to month. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do if we get progressive and do those things. But we keep getting up against the wall and panicking. At least say the sky's falling if it ain't falling at the last minute. Because we look at other counties around Georgia, not just stay in Georgia. How they do it? They don't do what we do. But we are always the one that always got to wait to the last minute, then say, woe is me, I can't do this and can't do that. So good job. I appreciate that. So we'll just keep it moving.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions out there?
I just have one thing to ask Ms. Becky, Mr. Administrator.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Ms. Becky, that warehouse that Commissioner Sires was mentioning, I knew we did enter into a contract, extension contract right before Ms. DeVetto left.
Yes.
Can you send us the expiration of that warehouse contract out there when it expires?
Yes.
Do you have an idea off the top of your head when it expires? If you don't, you can send it to
I think this is the actual one that just keeps renewing. It's like a year lease, but unless somebody says something, it just keeps renewing, I believe, sir.
Okay, well, can you take a look at it, because we want to see? Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Let me throw one in there.
Your hand, sir.
Ms. Paget. would you ensure that you inform us of a termination clause in that same facility lease?
Sure. I can send the whole thing to everybody. I'll point it out and send you what we got.
Send it
To Ms. Bonner.
Ms. Bonner?
Yes.
Yes, we'll send it out, Commissioner. Commissioner Clark, go ahead, sir. I see your hand.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions. Number one, will you please see that this information that was posted up here for us to look at or emailed to each one of the commissioners, please?
Yes, sir.
And the other question is this. I'm a little bit not satisfied with an answer because I don't think an answer was ever given, but let's go back to the very beginning when we were talking about the stations that were supposed to be built and one wasn't built. And Commissioner Marion Williams are very concerned about that and wanted answers on it, as do I. But the big question is if we are deducting $50,000 per hauler per month, that we're not paying them that $50,000, that's $1.2 million a year. Where
It's just one, sir. Just
Pardon
one.
me?
Just one. Just one.
One hauler?
One hauler.
Okay. And we're retaining that money. What is that? Where's that money going and what is that money being spent for?
Right. It remains in our, I think it's, Mark, correct me, it's the Fund 242, which is the collections.
Yeah, it's 542, correct.
542, right?
Yeah.
And so it just stays there and just keeps building?
Yeah, it just stays within it stays within the fund that we pay all of the expenses for the collective division. It stays in there for anything that's paid out of there, whether it be equipment or it be salaries or paying haulers or contractors. It just stays in that fund.
Okay, well, if it stays in that fund, my question is this: why does the landfill keep coming back to the commission for more and more and more money to fix the landfill?
Because that's the 542 is the collection side.
Right.
That's a different
And 541 is the landfill side.
It's a completely different fund. 541 is where the landfill operational costs come from, and including remediation efforts. 542 is strictly collections, and we do have to keep those separate.
So is that money drawing in interest anywhere? We just holding that money. What happened to that?
Commissioner, that question we probably best answer by our finance team.
Yeah, somebody. I mean, I'm hoping to finance somebody would know that.
Somebody else always has the answer, Marion. Hadn't you learned that over your 16 years?
Yeah,
it's always
yeah.
somebody else. Somebody else
got the answer.
Marion, this is like a song. Do a little dance, get down. Okay.
Since we own this, can we get a total? How long it's been there? How much you got? How much interest is made? What bank is in? I want the whole nine gamut on it. Whole 9 yards.
We'll be happy to provide that information to you, Commissioner.
Okay, Mr. Administrator, I believe Mr. Clark had asked for the presentation that was sent out to all members of the commission and the mayor. So,
okay,
Mr. Clark, if you don't have it, let me know.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, we appreciate the feedback today for this session.
Thank you.
We look forward to further discussions on this topic, sirs.
When, Joe? Where do we go from here?
That's a great question, Commissioner. We do know that time is of essence.
That's right.
And if you all's decision to go either way, we definitely want to know right away. So we'll be happy to go ahead and place this item back on the agenda, and as far as a decision made by you all.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm completing, Commissioner Williams, I'm completing my survey, and I would like to have another workshop and bring you what we find, and let's talk about the current agreement, whether we rebid now or 2 years down the road. let's start talking about what is in our current contract and what you would like to see in a new contract.
Well, I think procurement had already explained that we need to go ahead, if we're gonna do this process, not wait until we're up against the wall even more, and then
Right.
can't do it. Now,
Right.
there's a lot of things that won't get in, and a lot of areas that won't make it, but we need, if we're gonna do it, we need to go ahead and do it. It's like swimming.
Right.
You can't swim outside the water. You gotta get in there.
Right.
Sooner.
So we need to bring you, let's talk about a new bid and new contract. That needs to be our next step. And we need to do that sooner
That's not
than
what we asked of you, ma'am. We didn't ask you
Yeah.
to do that, Ms. Becky.
Okay.
He says put it on the agenda. We'll tell you what we need.
Well, we need to talk about it, and she just say bring a new contract. She said let's talk about it, and
We
that's the
did
same
that.
thing.
I'm still doing the same thing. We just did that this morning.
Well, we need to put it on the agenda so we can get
That's
six
all
votes.
you need to do.
Okay.
We don't need another workshop.
Okay.
If I can, may I?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, I won't have anything to
Wait.
say.
What? Yes, you can. Well, hold it now. Wait a minute now. Who calling these shots? We got a workshop in the procurement. Got something they want to bring. I want to hear it, Miss Sam.
I just wanted to, well, you give it, do I have permission to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead,
Did
Ms.
a
Sam.
workshop, aren't you?
Yeah, she's a part of our team. Yes, she is. Go ahead, Ms. Sam.
I just wanted to make sure that we were clear in what the commission's options are, because there are quite a few. And Becky has done a colossal job in bringing you information. But the terms and agreement of the current contract, I know that you all are aware. We have consistently said 2 years, but do know that there is another 2-year option out there. So that means in actuality and in live time, it's actually 4 years. I wanted you to take that away because it was always said 2 years, but you have that 2 years plus another 2-year option, which means 4. As it relates to time to put it together, the reason we're pushing to start this process now, because we wanted to address your concerns from the floor, where people will have enough time to do the things that the minimum things that we have required in this contract. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's 2 years with a 2-year option. And if we have to take that and look at something else, this will give us an opportunity to look at any other considerations that you bring before us. That's all.
And Ms. Sam, let me respond. I'm very disappointed because I see the city being trashed with the once a week pickup. I think there's some changes that got to be made, because I used to believe that once a week was enough. But after going through once a week, and I wasn't there when the city went to once a week, I realize now that once a week with anybody more than in the household than I've got, just one person, once a week is fine. But when you got people with children, I see trash on top of cans. I see trash on the side of the can where the arms won't pick the trash up. The dogs get to it. We're not serving the community with the best service what we got now with once a week pickup. So there got to be some changes. Whether we rebid it, we can't take the same contract and go back, I don't think. But we got to do something to clean the city up. And if anybody think differently, they're crazy. Because it's obvious in your face when you ride that in the street, especially on one side of town, that you can see trash all over the community. Don't let a holiday come in and we miss a day, then stuff is really messed up. So I think we need to talk about it all. We need to put it on the agenda. I can do that. I may not be able to change it, but I can keep it on the agenda, Ms. Sam.
Commissioners, thank you all. I also wanted to make you all aware that legal was also on this call and has been heavily involved with our team as far as this presentation. Ms. Rachel Mack. Are there any questions? Thank you all. This concludes the presentation today.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.